The goal is try to understand, again, there is a lot of buzz around open innovation. There is a lot of, obviously, when something becomes popular, everybody wants to do something, and when the marketing department kicks in, they want to communicate something. And then when the problem starts, because companies have done nothing, start to present themselves as the new Googles, and so that's creating a sort of expectations, and down the way that's create what is called at the beginning a sort of honeymoon effect. Everybody's happy, is communicating, celebrating, and after a while nothing happens, and that's when the problems start coming. And then when the CFO started looking at the numbers, looking at the result produced, and then what it was a phenomenal communication and PR effort turns into nothing. And so from hero to zero, something like that. I'd like to discuss a bit what are the good, the bad, and the ugly, meaning looking back or looking forward. What has been something that you believe has been a very, very important wow moment for in terms of improvement for the way things have been done, in a way that consider the world from outside as part of your innovation strategy, The bad is some bad experiences, something that maybe you have put a lot of effort in designing something, you have a lot of expectation, and at the end it failed miserably, what you have potentially learned. And then the ugly is what are still the most relevant barriers that is still inside the company, or whatever, the wall that you're not yet broken. So I will not ask you to explain all of them, but maybe one good or one bad, one ugly for each of you may be the perfect way to go to noon and move to the next panel. Antonio, you want to take the lead?
I think I'm going to come back to something that Nuria, I mentioned before, Nuria was mentioning now, that we have to be very, very clear on what the challenge is and what you are looking for. And you need to resource yourself well before you engage with someone else, especially if you need to engage with someone else and it's not something internal. We've had different kinds of collaboration, with startups. In some, they've built IP for us. In some, we've helped develop their own IP. When they have worked, it's always because we've been very clear at the beginning. We know what we wanted, where the red lines were, and the startup on the other side was clear as well. So, for example, in the case of developing IP for us, we were asked to share that IP with them because we wanted to offer it to other clients. But we know that was strategic for us, and we were not to share that IP. And it was a very successful. We're still collaborating with that startup, and it worked because we were both very clear. And of course, then you need to put the best people and the best resources to every project you start.
Marco?
Very quickly, for me, the good, of course, the entrepreneurship program, as you said, is something that make history within Terna, and the chance that we have given to the people to propose innovation and make innovation is something incredible. Talking about the bad, I think that the most significant event was a project where we are making open innovation with another partner, but this partner has, let's say, stole our idea, our know-how, has make an EP title, and actually is making money with our know-how. And I can clearly state it because it was the period where the innovation and the cultural approach that I was discussing before is not enough. It's not enough. And so this is the result. After this event, there was the step. So we have now, after this event, an EP manager. We have several persons that working about our competence, our know-how to defend, to develop, to make money with our know-how. But if we don't have such experience, probably not is a change. And the ugly is the approach that a lot of company already had, and is very particular for a company that makes infrastructure to work with startup with the same approach of the supplier. So to work with startup, with milestone, with punishment, 100 millions of euros of tender, we are talking about a partner. You are together a team, and you need to find a solution to a specific challenge. It's something that is completely different, and the ugly is need to be faced.
Bruno.
Well, I think at the end is a learning approach, no? So I think now we are in the best position because in the last conference meeting, because we are quoted on the stock market, was presented for the first time to the analyst the beyond insurance strategy in terms of mobility, welfare and property, with clear objectives of what we want to reach in the next 3 years. And let me say that to arrive to that, there was a long path in Terna in terms of creating structure, because of course one of the points also when you want to create innovation is also in some cases when it's something really new compared to what you have internally, is also to create some business line. So to create someone that could at the end take on charge what you are putting inside, because otherwise of course it's not so easy now when you have something new, and so I think now we are in a very good position. So we are now doing some due diligence to add other couple of startups for this ecosystem. And let me say, I don't see good or bad or ugly. I see that there are some things that we have to improve. Probably one of the areas where we have to focus in the future is also to have more speed in the acquisition of startups, because we take times, and also because to be honest, we concentrate most of this funnel of acquisition in the same time, so at the end it's not easy to manage many startups with legal, because we are corporate, so we are, of course we are thinking to how we can change in the future this to be more able to manage. But another point is important is to have I think let me say some basic of startups or building blocks of startups that help to create this new business line, because otherwise you don't have nothing. After you can think of other startups, but the point is having in all of the ecosystem, mobility, welfare, property, some that are really the building blocks, and that is the core that you have to focus, and probably maybe it takes times, because otherwise you make mistakes, you put on board startups that at the end has no value for creating business.
You said at the beginning it's a learning process, and then when you, probably the first time you do something, it takes time, the second time you learn, and then get faster and faster. That's the process. Nuria.
Okay, well, let me share one of the ugly. So things I constantly find is managing KPIs. I think that from the innovation department, it's quite hard to be able to track your development if you compare it with the core business, because mainly we are based on exploring and they are working with exploiting what they currently have. So I think that it requires either experience, trying some, I don't know, some quick wins and sharing with them results, or I don't know, like some previous training, some general understanding. But I think that as soon as this is understood, you immediately gain more trust from the top management, and that means more freedom. So obviously this means better pilots, better proofs of concepts, and that helps innovation to move forward quite fast in comparison.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Again, you need to manage the internal interaction, and the culture is a bit roadblock, because corporates are not ready to change totally the parameter they're used to measure anything that they do, and that's why, and that's something we'll discuss this afternoon, the venture client is probably the most efficient way to deliver some quick wins get the trust from the top, get the top level buy-in, and then to be able to be more forward-looking. So that's probably the path that we have seen, and recurrently is the one that is able to produce results. Last but not least, Paulina,
I go for the good.
Good, thank you.
I think all of you have seen the startup and venture capital market in the last year. It was going crazy. We had so much money in the market, so competitive financing rounds, valuations going through the roof. It was quite tricky to start a CVC at that point in time.
Yeah.
No one was looking for more money. Nonetheless, we dived in really deeply into the ecosystem and tried to understand where could be our niche as a CVC. How do we not compete but complement financially driven VCs that are doing a great job? Yeah. So we positioned ourselves as a follow investor. So we are not leading rounds, not co-leading the rounds, but really leaving governance up to financial investors and founders, and complement with this strategic value add with corporate clienting projects, with expertise from the ecosystem of logistics. And that worked out very well. So in just after having kicked off the initiative, we really had AAA investors trying to invest with us, deals on the table. And that is what we're looking for, right? We want to become part of the ecosystem. We want to sit on this at the same table. This is how we generate business intelligence, getting it from venture capital. So the positioning, I think, was quite a good in the last year. Yeah.
Cool. So we heard about some ugly things. That, by the way, everybody has his own bad things, and shit happens. So just move forward, and then, but let's look for the good and for the better. So thank you for joining us, and it's time for the next panel.